Oh man, this has been the busiest year of my entire adult life, and I am tired as hell. Also, this is the shittest beard I've ever had in my entire life. But I always put aside time to make this video, because it's the one video I make myself make every single year. I really should give myself more time for the video making process. It's like 5 PM on the 30th of December as I'm recording this. I mean, watching films is the easy part. It's the write-up and then also putting the video together in an editor, which takes the longest. But anyway, it's the one video I'm going to do this year, and I'm really going to try and make more than one video in 2023. Right, let's just do what we usually do and go through the films I've seen in the year, you know, month by month, like normal. And I'll briefly review the ones I've seen and throw a comment or two at the ones I haven't seen but probably deserve a mention. Let's do it. Okay, first of all, in January, there was the Legend of La Llorona, or La Llorona. Bro, I still don't know how to pronounce it, even 10 years later after I first heard the name. Okay, first of all, you are a terrible mother for leaving your kids alone in the woods and the dark. And imagine my shock when they die because of the ghost bitch. And when you lose a child, for the love of God, who thinks it's a genius idea to go on a holiday somewhere riddled with gangs and drug cartels? Morons, that's who. But we need them to be morons so that we can have the plot. Oh, and props to the effects crew for the fakest CGI cloth I have ever seen in my entire life. That's pretty much the moral to this story. Don't go to unsafe places with your kids. But luckily, Danny Trejo was there to protect them with his glorious tash. And also, shotguns work on ghosts. Who knew? So, this isn't awful, but it's not that good either. There's just better adaptions of this specific ghost lady, so 4 out of 10. Also, I am Saban. Also in January was Scream 5. Like, God, why are these films still going? Just kill Sydney off already. And then we move on to February, which we had Moonfall. I truly felt nothing watching this. It's a throwback to the disaster movies from like 10 to 15 years ago, and I literally didn't give a single fuck about any of the characters in this. The best part about it was the intermission I took halfway through to do something else. It's good for background noise and not much else. Luckily, it's free with Amazon Prime. 3.5 out of 10. Moving on, we also had Death on the Nile. Didn't see the previous film, and yes, you can call me stupid for not seeing the obvious twist. They throw the first suspect in right at the start, to the point where I thought it was an obvious red herring. It turns out it was a double, or maybe even a triple bluff. And it spends a lot of time setting up, but I guess when you have a dozen characters, you need to give them enough screen time to convey enough motivation for being the murderer. I had trouble remembering all the motivations of the different characters, but it's Hercule Poirot. He'll explain it all in the end anyway. It's not a fast-paced action movie. It's slow, and you got to pay attention to the details because it's a murder mystery, obviously. But it was engaging enough to keep my attention fully on it. Also, just like Danny Trejo, he has an excellent tash. So that's worth a few points on its own. 7 out of 10. Blacklight. This is pretty much what I've come to expect from Liam Neeson at this point. It was cool 10 years ago in The Grey, but it's just not my thing anymore. Also, it was rounded up a bit too quickly for my liking. it felt as if they could have got another 30 minutes out of it. And normally I'm the kind of guy who says, oh, this is too long, or, oh, they could have cut out 40 minutes and lost nothing. But, man, they really could have fleshed this out more. The action sequences were serviceable, though. I mean, even if the baddies had stormtrooper aim, and I'm talking really garbage stormtrooper aim. Liam Neeson is just getting old. Either slow down or just take movie roles that aren't so serious. Have some fun, man. 4.5 out of 10. Uncharted. This was fun and action-y. It moves at a reasonable pace. I'd never played the Uncharted games, but I had spent enough time around my mate's house who did play them, and it does seem true to the tone of the games. Though the cameo from Nolan North didn't slip past me. Tom Holland is somewhat of a match for the role, though it felt like his character lacked the confidence of the video game version of Nathan Drake. Also, Tom Holland will forever look 12 years old to me. It's just how he looks. But, however, artistic license and all that, it's not a retelling of the story in the games shot for shot, and that's fine. It works well on its own as a half-decent action-adventure film, and sometimes that's all I want, just entertainment, and it fills that role quite nicely. The humour and the character development does need work on, though. While I enjoyed the movie, it did only get like 2 good laughs out of me, both to do with the cat. 7 out of 10 at best. And then, of course, there was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot. Oh, brilliant. Another remake/revival that nobody gives a shit about. Moving on to March, we have The Batman. Oh, dear God, this was a chore to watch. I respect the filmmaker's choice making this film the way they did, to try something different. But personally, the missus and I were bored in the cinema. We thought the film was over, bar a few minutes when the Riddler was caught, only to realise that there was still another fucking hour to go. And yes, it was slightly more grounded than most Batman films have been, but the misery just wouldn't let up. It has all the elements of a good Batman film that you would want, mostly Batman being an actual detective. It just delivers them in a way that is far too dragged out than they need to be. I get it, the world sucks, but oh my God, a couple of short moments of levity would have been nice as well. If you really liked it, then good for you. I'm not going to take that away from you. However, personally, I found it overly long, dragging its feet with certain plot points, and the tone of the film was just too depressing. Critically, it's great. It's like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, but entertainment-wise, it's a 4 out of 10. And then, of course, we had Uma. Congratulations, at least some filmmakers know that you don't need a baker's dozen characters as the main cast, and endless over-the-top CGI. It is possible to make a half-decent film with only about 4-ish people, and in the middle of nowhere with no expensive sets. It was engaging enough and the performances were okay. It could be better, but as a Korean-inspired horror, low-budget film just over an hour, it's perfectly reasonable entertainment, and I don't regret watching it whatsoever. 6 out of 10. And then we had Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Welcome to Operation Mindfuck!
This was basically better than the Doctor Strange movie that came out, where it was actually utilising the multiverse in a more interesting way, rather than just shiny CGI in your face. Most of the film takes place in an IRS building, weirdly enough, and the story was interesting, the characters were likeable, and even had a heartfelt message at the end. Ultimately, the story was about family and a mother's love for her daughter, And no matter how crazy or insane things become, it's stronger to love than hate. And while life may not be perfect, enjoy the small happy moments while you can. 8 out of 10. And then we move on to April, which of course started with Morbius. Honestly, I don't understand why this is so hated. Yeah, it feels rushed. It's not Oscar material acting. And yes, the CGI does get worse and more blatant as the movie goes along. But you know something? I wasn't asking for a genius complex roller coaster of an epic. I just wanted to watch a dumb movie about Jared Leto becoming a vampire man, and that's what I got. And yes, it felt rushed, almost to an Olympic-level 100-metre sprint past nearly every bloody plot point, and not delving any deeper than just surface level. In essence, Morbius has the opposite problem to the Batman, whereas the Batman was laboriously dragging every single damn thing. Morbius speeds past everything as fast as possible. The best part was Matt Smith's over-the-top acting, which you can clearly see him enjoying. Anyone going into a comic book movie expecting it to be deep or always to be well written is a moron at this point. Ever since Avengers Endgame, there's been a slide in quality that's just kept on going downhill. Also, a lot of us are just suffering from superhero fatigue because we're just being saturated with it now. It's almost an endless production line of superhero / comic book crap now. So, to get a film of this genre to be this entertainingly rubbish is actually quite refreshing. It's average entertainment. A solid 5 out of 10 just for a fun movie that you watch once with a couple of beers. Don't think too hard about it and just never watch it again. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Just like the original, it's not Oscar material. It's just made to be enjoyed. It's fun and ridiculous. Jim Carrey obviously loves being Robotnik, and you can just tell he's having way too much fun with it. And yes, the story regarding the other human characters could just be removed entirely, but the main story with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles is enjoyable. I didn't see all the references in the background, so it was kind of useful to have someone who grew up with Sonic, both TV and the games, sitting next to me, pointing them all out. As a layman to Sonic lore, the film by itself is fine, and it's amusing, so 7.5 out of 10. Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. Look at this gang of gimps. Useless, all of them. But by far and away, the most pointless of these characters are these two pillocks. Both Kowalski and Karma add absolutely nothing at all to this story. Karma has a chat with Grindelwald for like 5 minutes and does one good assist right at the end, and that's it. Why even include this character? And Kowalski, bro, if your woman leaves you to follow magical Hitler, just leave her. The same with Ezra Miller's emo character, who just stands in the background doing bugger all. Like, why was he even in this? In fact, that pretty much sums up this movie. It's trying so hard to make it seem like a lot is going on, but it's incredibly shallow and surface level only. The missus and I watched this, and we were both bored, punctuated with the occasional laugh, which were all delivered by the animals in the film. Like the spider crab rave dancing, and the slow-mo scene where Teddy reaches for his shiny object instead of his friend. 5 out of 10. The Bad Guys. Yeah, it's half-decent entertainment. The style of animation fits the tone and characters of the film. It's not photorealism, which gives it more cartoony style. I didn't mind it. It was alright, and got quite a few laughs out of me, so 6.5 out of 10. The Northman. Okay, this is a film that's worth the critical praise it gets, unlike The Batman. It was a slow burner, but you wanted it to be because you were enjoying it and you're immersed in the world that's created for the story. It felt longer than it actually was, but in a good way, not checking your watch every 15 minutes like The Batman, praying it will end soon. The story was pretty simple. It's about an exiled prince getting revenge for his father being killed when he was younger. It's not a happy film, but it is satisfying to watch. Main takeaway from this film is don't drop acid or eat mushrooms. The directing, the acting, and the cinematography are just top notch, and it reminds you that there are still people with vision, creativity, and passion in Hollywood that are still capable of making films of this level of quality and caliber. Few though they are. But no spoilers, just watch it. 9 out of 10. The unbearable weight of massive talent. I swear at this point Nicolas Cage has just fully become a living meme now. The man just doesn't care anymore. Money is money. You know, he's got bills to pay off, and he's also got to keep his mother in a nursing home. So you know what? I salute you, my dude. Just carry on.
In any other job, hard work is something to behold, but with film performance,
You're making too many movies, Nick. You're working too hard, Nick. Have the audience miss you more, Nick. I mean, hello, it's my job. I pay my bills. I feed my family. You're annoying.
gosh.
Just agreeing to anything and everything that comes his way. And you know what? This was great fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a completely ridiculous comedy action romp. If Cage carries on with films like this, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm all here for it. 6.5 out of 10. In May, we had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or as it really should be called, Doctor Strange 2, The Salt of Wanda Maximoff. It's mostly just Doctor Strange regretting not being able to be with Christine, but gains a third eyeball at the end, so swings and roundabouts, I guess. In all honesty, the story was less about him and more about Wanda being salty about not having kids and throwing a hissy fit because of it. America Chavez is less of a character and more of a plot MacGuffin. I mean, who knows, maybe she'll reappear in another movie as an actual character next time. I worry that most movies now are slowly becoming 95% green screen and very few real locations or practical effects. I mean, it looks great and all, and I hope that the visual effects artists are well paid for it, but when films are mostly CGI or green screened, it just feels like a film is lacking any soul. 5.5 out of 10. Oh, there was of course Top Gun Maverick, but I will not be watching this until I've watched the original film, because I'm like that. I like to watch things in order. Otherwise, any references or callbacks in the second movie won't make any sense to me. I know, I suck for not having seen the first Top Gun, but there's a lot I haven't got round to watching yet. In June, we had Jurassic World Dominion. Was the villain deliberately an amalgamation of Tim Cook and Anthony Fauci? Like, was that on purpose, or was it by accident? Like, the multiple subplots tying into each other was a bit contrived, but how else are you gonna get both casts of characters in the same place at the same time? The inclusion of Ian Malcolm, Dr. Grant, and Dr. Sattler kind of expects you to know, who they are, what they've done, and what happened in the original trilogy of films. So having them there wouldn't mean anything to a younger person who hasn't seen the older films. I mean, it was nice to see them again, but the writers seemed hell-bent on speeding through everything as fast as possible just to get the characters all in one place. The film was paced too fast, and it never slows down long enough to let it sink in or let us spend time with characters for more than 5 minutes. I mean, the whole subplot of farmland being destroyed and potentially creating a famine, did give me a big think moment. Is this the next crisis to come along in our world, I wonder? Oh yeah, and of course, the T-Rex is never beaten because logo. 6 out of 10. The Black Phone. It's alright for a low-budget horror movie. Still not entirely sure what the motivation was for the killer. The film's answer seems to be a resolute who gives a shit. The child acting was okay for what it was. Also, the Amazon listing puts it down as a suspense film. Suspense? My question is, where? And how? 5 out of 10. On to July, and we have Thor Love and Thunder. Cringy is the first word that comes to mind. Please, just take these films away from Taika Waititi or whatever the fuck his name is. Like, just stop. Enough. It was a chore to watch. Like, why the damn screaming goats? Like, I get they're trying to link the myth of Thor with the superhero Thor, but the screaming goats were just fucking annoying. Like, bring back serious Thor. This is embarrassing. Also, the missus was not happy with what they did to Zeus. She's just glad that Poseidon wasn't there. And also, why in the hell did Zeus sound Russian? Like, what? Why did he sound like Rasputin from The King's Man? My brain hurts. So, fuck you. 4.5 out of 10. Nope. Yeah, no, I don't really have any clear feelings about this one. It's a very slow burner to start with. To the point of, by the halfway point, I still had no idea which direction the film was actually heading. By the halfway point, it still felt like it was originally planned to be a mini-series, because it just felt disjointed, and the character of Duke Park felt completely unconnected and was in his own story alongside the main one. It seems like the underlying message of the film is that animals should be respected and can be unpredictable. The monster was scarier the less you saw it. Like, when it's in the dead of night and raining blood and body parts down upon the house, and the alien basically evolves into like a giant floating trash bag at the end. Okay, fine. The characters were okay, and they all brought something to the table to combine their strengths into a plan to lure the flying alien trash bag thing out into the clear to get footage of it. That's the thing. It has good elements and bits that work, but it's just that the first half, which felt like killing time to stretch the film out, but it's alright, if somewhat bizarre. 6 out of 10. In August, there was that Stallone film, Samaritan. I mean, I'm not a die-hard fan of Stallone, and I don't watch his movies a whole bunch, but this was alright, I guess. I mean, maybe you saw the ending coming, but most of the time I don't. It was okay, the kid actor wasn't bad, and most of the characters are believable, and it's got its message of everyone is capable of change or doing the right thing. It's not that deep or compelling, but for a 1 hour 40 minute aging superhero film, you could certainly do a lot worse. I'd give it like 6 out of 10 at best. Moving on to September, and we have the new Disney version of Pinocchio. Lol, did you seriously think I was going to watch this when I have the superior original on Blu-ray? Plus, I mean, I've heard that it's just 5% Tom Hanks, and the other 95% is just CGI everything else. So, fuck that. And then, of course, we have Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Jeepers, I wasn't expecting it to suck that much. The older movies are way more edgy and way more gory. This felt like a watered down vanilla version. There was one good laugh in the entire film where he like busts through a door and does a creepy smile and like a cheeky little wave. And I mean, that's it. And my God, the use of green screen was just absolutely atrocious. Like, to the point where it's so obvious that green screen is being used because everything has a blue fucking tint. Or you feel like some of the characters are, like, literally pasted onto the environment. It just looks shit. Like, there's no other way to explain it. Shit. 3 out of 10. Oh, yeah, and then, of course, there was Hocus Pocus 2. Like, why was this made? Like, who was asking for a sequel to Hocus Pocus? Fuck me. On we go to October. We have Hellraiser. I mean, this was at least better than Jeepers Creepers, I'll give it that. I mean, I've not seen any of the previous Hellraiser films before this. Yes, I know. Scream at me in the comments to hand in my horror fan membership card. It's not as gruesome as I thought it would be, but it delivers just enough to make you interested. I like the designs of the Cenobites, although the main cast in a horror movie has yet again failed to make me give a shit about them, and at least half of them kind of deserved it. But as an introduction to the franchise, it's made me interested in watching some of the older films, so 5.5 out of 10. Halloween Ends. Yeah, I wish it would fucking die, but it won't. Black Adam. It's slow to start, but once it picked up, it's entertaining and somewhat engaging. Like, maybe if they got rid of the kid Amon character, it might have given a chance for more depth into the Adriana character, you know, the kid's mum. The only fault that I can give this film is that it suffers from too many characters. While, yes, Cyclone and Atom Smasher were good characters for supporting cast, they didn't add much to the story. I mean, except for a couple of comedic moments like backhanding Hawkman out of the sky. One thing that they could have done is fleshed out Kent Nelson a bit more, saying that he used to be an archaeologist, which he was, giving him a reason to interact with Adriana and learn more about her. But overall, the film has a slow start, but once it got into a good pace, it just kept on going. It's entertaining with good action sequences, with a sprinkle of comedic moments, interesting twists in the story to keep the audience interested, I guess. So it's a solid film, I'll give it that. 7.5 out of 10. Quick roundup of November. I know that there's Del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, I know, but I don't care at this point. And then, of course, there was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I mean, the first film was okay entertainment, not as perfect as everyone initially made it out to be, but with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, it just feels wrong to make this movie without him, and as such, I didn't really see any point in watching it. Finally, on to December, and we have Detective Knight Redemption. Like, poor Bruce Willis. Like, even without his medical condition, like, he just deserves to stop and rest. Retire, dude. Which, actually, he is going to do, so good on him. Just too many direct-to-video movies would crush most people's souls. Like, I don't know how he's lasted this long. And then, of course, the big one in December, Avatar 2, The Way of Water. This just took too long to come out, and now, like, no sane person should give a damn about this. And then the last film of the year that was worth any note was Babylon. Great. Hollywood making a joke out of their corruption and degeneracy right from its inception. Like, we're crying out for, like, a rebirth in media, a cultural renaissance, if you will. Like, to the point where Hollywood is, like, trolling about its early days. Like, yeah, this is how shitty we were, and this is the kind of things that we got up to. It's like, fuck you. Just... yeah, but who gives a shit about that? Let's move on to the conclusion section. Right, here we are again, arriving at the conclusion section. So, film of the year goes to The Northman, a gritty revenge tale set in the Viking period that ends in two men fighting half-naked on an active volcano. What more could you want? The story was simple, the fighting was awesome, trippy visions and hallucinations were trippy. Yeah. Don't take shrooms, children. You know, going from The Lighthouse to a film like this is quite the jump, but you can see a similar style that director Robert Eggers uses in storytelling. One of the main points of the film is that something you see as a child might not always be as it appears, and missing context can colour your memory of an event. Yeah, it's just an all-round great film amongst this year's sea of mediocrity and slightly above average films. This is why we watch films, for good shit like this. The worst film of the year goes to, well, objectively the worst film was Jeepers Creepers Reborn, but it is by no means the most boring. I mean, at least it had some very vague entertainment value, like, even if it was atrocious to look at. However, it's still a piece of crap. And the Attention Deficit Award this year goes to Avatar 2, because I just have zero interest in it at all, and no desire to watch it. Like, maybe if James Cameron releases the third movie in less than a decade this time, I might pay attention. And also, to a lesser extent, this award also extends to the Adam Project and Prey, the Predator prequel movie, because I've just not got around to them yet, and I probably will at some point. And that's it for this year. This is the quickest I've ever had to throw a video together in a long time. Hopefully I'll be a bit less stressed and a bit less strapped for time in 2023. Here's hoping. Because there's been a couple of videos that I've wanted to make for a while that have been in the back of my head for ages. And yeah, I just hope I'll have enough time to make them now. See you next year. Hopefully with something that isn't a end of year review. I am genuinely going to try this time, okay? Right. See you all later. Yeah, it's just an all-round blurry film. Because it just felt disjointed and the character... Ugh. Thanks shit neighbours for screaming.